put out over the wine and throughout the poster sessions. So one of our poster session, someone who will contribute to the poster session as well as this session is Jiwon Zhang, who is a visiting postdoctoral scholar with us from Tsinghua University. He is a specialist in stochastic optimization information theory, and we will point you again for more questions to his poster outside. But in the meantime, let's give him our full attention. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just really go through the topic, and this is the joint work with Pascal and Sheng Zhou and Zhizheng Liu from Tsinghua University. And today I will talk about SANET as an open access reasoning consensus protocol in various networks. So first one I want to talk about is reasoning consensus in open access system. So blockchain, as we know, is brilliant in open access reasoning consensus on distributed ledgers. So actually, believe it or not, there's a long line of visiting consensus research before that. For example, the practical visiting fault tolerance, and they mainly deal with consensus reaching with malicious environment in permissioned access system. What I mean by permissioned access system is that there is an assumption that your identity is prior known, so that there is if you have a predetermined fraction of good nodes, then this algorithm works really well. But if you are dealing with an open access system, then there is some problem. For example, if you see this figure, if you know the identity of the participating nodes, one is John, one is Bob, one is Alice, then you can reach consensus by voting, actually majority voting, right? But if you do not know the identity of the nodes in an open access system, so one, what we call a SIBO, can generate arbitrary number of pseudonyms so that it can gain inappropriate power for this voting. So your spin basically fails in this regime. So can we directly apply blockchain in this open access system? The answer is yes, but not for real-time applications. For example, we all know that blockchain can be real slow and real low throughput, up to 7 transactions for Bitcoin and maybe a little bit more for Ethereum. But the delay is also another problem. Basically, you are facing with a minutes or 2-hour delay. But in real applications, for example, in vehicular networks, cars passing through a intersection or draw swamps, you really need real-time consensus reaching. So in this case, the traditional Byzantine fault tolerance schemes are actually quite good because they can have really high transactions up to 10,000 and really low delay, but they do not apply to open access systems. So what we do here is that we come up with what we call SANET. It's the SIBO-proof various network coordinate-based Byzantine consensus that can work in open access system and achieve real-time consensus reaching. But one of the limitations is that it only works in wireless network because it uses wireless network coordinates. I will just use a very high-level idea analogy to explain the SANET, and then maybe we can discuss more in the poster. And there's a reason that we spend a lot of time in coming up with this name, SANET, because as in SANET, we all know that in the house of this America, it's funny as Chinese talking about this. And, unlike the House of Representatives, the seats in the Senate is actually constant in a state, right? Basically 2 in America. So that's what we do here. So considering an open access system, that we will select based on the Senate, select a constant number of nodes that will participate in the final voting, and based on their various network coordinates in a fully distributed manner, no trust manner. There is no central authority anywhere to check your locations. So one of the questions is that nodes can lie about their locations, and no authority can check this. So we come up. The main question we're dealing with is that how do we just verify by each other that we can say that these locations are valid, and we can. Basically, we can say that if you are really a Jensen, we think that maybe you are pseudonyms because pseudonyms they can generate different identities, but they cannot generate different various signals. So that's the main idea of this work. So the rest will be outside if you like. Thank you.
Dr. Chen gets so well that we will allow him one question while I get this set up.
Okay. Where is it on GitHub? Sorry?
Where is it on GitHub?
Not there yet.
All right, let's thank our speaker.
Hi everyone, Victoria Slchenko. Great to see you all here. Let me ask you the question. That's not mine. I mean, not my car. Okay. Who wants to be a billionaire? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. So you are guys in the right room. So because we live in an age where you can raise capital for your innovations and startups, and I very much hope that after this day you got inspired, and now with my little presentation, I hope you can have an even better idea what is happening in the world of financing, where literally you can raise capital from just about everyone from all over the world. Just very general information, sources of finance, right? If you want to start up, and I very much hope that you will be doing something in the blockchain space, because I work with venture capitalists, angel investors. I work with quite a few private equity funds. Everyone is interested in startups based on blockchain technology. So just really quick, I just wanted to give you an idea what is happening in finance. We have internal sources, we have external sources. Internal sources, personal capital, we call it bootstrapping, friends and family, or in the finance world we call it FFF, friends, family, and fools. And why fools? Is because, obviously when you have just an idea, the risks are very high, right? External, we have debt finance, but banks don't like to finance startups. Obviously, they want to see more mature business revenue generating, so you basically pretty much live with equity finance, private and public. So a bit of, again, overview what is happening in the startup world, and again, I'm trying to give you as much as possible information. So basically, we have a startup right here. So you have no revenue, and you just starting. So value of desk is probably the term that you've heard from your finance classes, where basically you just invest in your startup with no revenues. Then you basically can go to the roof of crowdfunding, angels, FNF, friends, family, and fools. We call it seed capital, and basically the traditional routine is you go to venture capitalists and pitch your business, and it is basically stage financing. You can say first, second, third is usually Series A, Series B, Series C. What is, oh my God, I'm running out of time. What is basically happening is that you are constantly on a pitching routine, raising capital, because obviously when you mature you have to hire more people. The marketing expense are going to the roof. By the way, if you don't know, for example, just to advertise on LinkedIn, it would be $12 per click, so which is very painful, and I know that myself because I'm an entrepreneur. So you're basically going through from searching stage, building stage, and growth stage. very much, I work a lot with startups, into startups, and they ask, oh, can you introduce us with VCs, right? So I outlined some of metrics, but basically, my point is that you should know that VCs are investing only in startups that usually have total addressable market of at least $1 billion. So if you're small, you are pretty much out of their realm. And another thing to remember is that VCs are exit-driven firms. So as long as you can show them what your exit strategy, that's how they value your company. If you don't have an exit strategy, so your value for them is pretty much zero. So again, objective, grow equity value of the company. And interesting slide. So if you invested $1,000 and some of IPO, I'm sure you know, initial private offerings. And what is happening right now? Interestingly enough, blockchain is taking over. So basically companies, professional investors, even basically retail investors like to invest in blockchain-based companies and basically overdone more than venture capitalists. So interestingly enough, if you had invested $100 in Bitcoin in 2011, you'll be probably not sitting here and listening to my presentation, or you will be like my friend Bob Pierce, hang out right now in Puerto Rico and building the societies that are based on cryptocurrency. Oh, how much time I have? 2 minutes? Yeah. Okay, well, initial coin offerings. Do you guys know anything about this at all? Right? Okay, so I outlined some key points, and since you know something, so I wanted to just finish with this picture. Is what we're experiencing right now is an upside down model of startup financing, right? Because remember that chart. Used to be we explore, we validate, we build MVP, minimum viable products, so we raise capital from friends and family, right? Then we go to professional investors, then we exit. Exit is we are IPO, or we basically sell company to Amazon or Google, right? So now basically you get money from the crowd, you grow your network, you're still in search, you validate the market by actually getting feedback. Then you build a product, and then you basically grow. So that's, I think, is a revolutionary feature that we experience, and as I say, we are witnessing a true democratization of finance, where everyone can participate in financing startups. And you, for example, as a potential entrepreneurs, I hope. We definitely need more entrepreneurs and lawyers, probably even doctors.
Well, Ethereum gets us less lawyers.
Yeah, well, I mean, lawyers have jobs, that's for sure. Yeah, and regulatory changes, and that's what is going to define basically ICO market. My very last slide. We need good companies, guys, and I hope that you can help us. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And Victoria Sulchenko, please connect with me if you have any questions. Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Awesome.
Am I up?
Yes. So next up, we have Christopher Groh, who is co-founder at Async, which is a mobile hardware backend company that's connecting physical and digital worlds. This is his third startup we established just before the session. He's multilingual as well, so just to recruit him out a little bit further about what's on LinkedIn. And so if you need to talk to him in any of the 4 languages he knows, I'm sure he'll be able to help you out. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you very much for that fantastic intro. So yeah, like he mentioned, I'm here today to a little bit talk about a proof of concept that we really put together at my company. As you mentioned, we are a cross-platform development company, and we really do focus on the IoT market. And we're a team of full-stack developers, and naturally we've been intrigued with the hype of blockchain in the past year and a half, so we decided to put together sort of a hack session together and kind of put a proof of concept together to see what we can learn throughout the process. So it mainly consists of 3 components, and I'm going to try to split each one out and kind of go over it very briefly. So just to be clear, this is a centralized and decentralized solution. So I think someone earlier was mentioning what's the difference between running this application as a smart contract or deploying with a MySQL database. It's truly just for exploring. That's what we're doing here. So the first piece of our component is our choice of IoT stack, which is LoRa and LoRaWAN. We like it a lot because of its long range, its low battery life. It's really good for outdoor applications. And it's open, basically it's open source for the most part. And in our proof of concept, we're going to be using LoRaWAN to kind of register and node devices or sensors and assign each one of them with a wallet address. We're going to also be sending the uplink packets to the network server. And at the end, we're going to basically be forwarding our decoded messages to our blockchain. The second part is going to be our blockchain, essentially. And we chose to go with Ethereum just because we've already been playing around with it for the past year. We like the fact that it's open source, and we really do like the community behind it. And in our proof of concept, we're going to use Ethereum to create a wallet and assign its address to one of our end nodes. We're going to use it to deploy our smart contract. And to mine our transactions, we're going to consist of the deployment of the smart contract along with registering the uplink packets from our end nodes. And I split this up into 2A, which is Ethereum, and the second portion of it is Swarm, which I don't know if anyone is familiar with right now, but it's basically a distributed storage platform. It could be run independently from Ethereum, but it's a native layer to Ethereum, so technically the idea is to have both nodes running simultaneously side by side. And how Swarm basically works is you upload your content, it splits it into 4K chunks and distributes it across the network and returns you one single hash. And that's what you use to retrieve your content. In our proof of concept, we're going to use Swarm to store the uploaded uplinks packets from our sensors. We're going to store the hash that's returned to us from the content storage layer and store that in our smart contract. And at the end, we're going to use the same storage layer to retrieve the content and display it in some kind of application. And the third one is going to be our app that we create, right? It's going to consist of our backend application that's responsible for routing the messages from our IoT application to the smart contract, and a simple front-end UI application to bring it all together. So after getting through all of that, you kind of have an overview of starting from the left. What I mentioned is LoRa, and we use the Things Network, which is a LoRaWAN service provider, and I'd be more than happy to talk a little bit more about what they do during the social hour. The middle layer being Ethereum and Swarm, and the end being this proof of concept application we put together. So after getting through all that madness, you kind of end up with a very stripped out smart contract that we put together to kind of handle very basic back-end functionality. And I split it into 2 different sections, setters on the left and getters on the right. And one important thing to note is that accessing getter functions within a smart contract in Ethereum is free. You don't pay transaction cost to access that data. And you can actually split this in the middle, setters being strictly used by our backend service, and our getters are used by our front-end application. So yeah, after getting through all that madness, basically you have everything running. This is kind of how it looks if you're working locally. Starting from the left, we can wait till I give kind of restarts maybe. Starting on the left, we have our Ethereum blockchain running. To the right, that's going a little bit too fast. But anyway, long story short, we have our chain running, our distributed layer running, our backend application, and then our front-end application. The end product ends up becoming this very beautiful application that we built. Spent a lot of time on the UI and UX for this one. But it's basically what you're looking at is one of our nodes that was already registered through the LoRaWAN network provider. It got registered within our smart contract, and what we're doing here is just storing its uplink packets by timestamp. And our front-end application is basically making these contract calls by device ID, or by a wallet address, I should say, and retrieving the timestamps from each uplink packet and retrieving those from Swarm. Some technical challenges that we came across is, well, typically with IoT applications, you might end up having thousands, if not tens of thousands of nodes deployed. And with Ethereum, you do have some limitations of transaction throughput and actually how much money you want to spend to write content to your smart contract. There are future solutions like Rated and Plasma that are like off-chain scaling solutions that we're trying to look into. Whether or not you can actually support machine-to-machine transactions across different applications. Time?
No, we got 1 minute.
1 minute. And one thing that I didn't mention about Swarm, the storage layer, is that they have an incentivization method that comes in, and that's how they kind of tie into Ethereum, where you can actually sell your data. You can have somebody pay you money for your data, but the question is how do you validate that data? So if you wanted to create an IoT marketplace where companies or researchers can sell their data, how do you actually validate that data is legit? And lastly, it's kind of how do we integrate with existing IoT solutions. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not a fully decentralized solution, although there's possibilities of getting there. But if we want this to kind of work, how do we actually integrate with LoRaWAN or other IoT protocols that exist? The source code for the project is available on GitHub right now. It does only work if you have a Things Network application running. However, that layer is small enough where it should be easily adapted to any application that you currently have running. I also have a Medium article out that goes more into detail about how to set up this whole proof of concept application. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris. Exactly on time. That's what we like to see. So I encourage you to go find Chris later on in the social hour. For our last speaker, not last but certainly not least, as they say, is Professor Mike Zaida. He is founder and director of the USC GamePipe Laboratory, which is what keeps, I think, USC year after year with a #1 games program in the world. He helped write some of the stuff that founded ICT, pretty much the name in VR, and he got his PhD from Washington University. Now I'm just hoping I can this come up. Great.
走马观花式的一个进程，从内蒙古。我也凳子，这隔壁凳子。
Always need a professor's touch. Apologies for the delay.
All right, we are last time. Oh, big bag. I designed these on a Mac and handed it off to him on a PC, so I just brought my laptop. The title is Blockchain Cultural Industries. Picture of me. This is my bio in pictures in one page, so you can understand all of that. Basically, what it is I founded a bunch of organizations, research organizations. I founded a number of conferences, and I chaired a lot of National Research Council committees, and had a great life. So, so what am I doing in blockchain? So I founded the games program at USC 13.5 years ago, and a lot of, I'm advisor to right now to 11 startup companies. A lot of them are from my current and past students. And one of the strangest things that is happening now is I'm becoming advisor to startups founded by people who are leaving game companies that hired large numbers of my students. So that's a little strange. So I'm advisor to 2 companies that are in the blockchain space. Reality Chain, which is a decentralized platform for virtual reality, and I'll show you some of the slides on that. And then I'm an advisor to BitAGEX, which is in Beijing. It's a licensed multi-digital asset exchange focused on the cultural industries, and guess what? In China, they have decided that digital exchanges and cryptocurrency is not okay. So what's my advice? I'm actually a cultural advisor to these people because they're pulling their company out of China and putting it either in Japan or Canada or the United States. And I have experience in all of those places. So I had an office in Tokyo for 12 years. And it's connected to a couple organizations. One is the World Cultural Industry Institute of Blockchain Application. Actually, this used to be part of BitEx, and they chopped that piece out and said this is like an institute that takes in donations and investments that then can be funding projects such as BitEx, which is now in another country. So, interesting organization. Let's move on to Reality Chain. Reality Chain, if you look at the augmented reality, virtual reality market, it's growing really large. About 4.3 billion in the US, about 2.6 billion in Asia Pacific, and about 2.58 billion in Western Europe. And there's an interesting opportunity there. And one of the problems that we're trying to solve with blockchain is that virtual worlds are walled gardens. So if you think of things like Second Life, and you spent a lot of time in Second Life, you built your own avatar and you built your own world there. And when Second Life gets unplugged, your virtual goods are gone. And all that time and effort is gone. And you don't own those virtual goods really. You bought them, you spent a lot of money on them inside of this environment. You really don't own them. They're still like Second Life or some other competitor. You can't sell items easily. So in the game space, you know, if you get to a certain point and you start selling your items, they usually ban you for life from the game, all right? So online services are sunset at the end of their market life cycle, destroying the value of virtual goods that build them, breaking the social connections to the community members. And what if players could keep their own virtual identities and goods? You know, we've talked about this. You know, I started in virtual reality in the mid-1980s, and through the mid-1990s, we talked a lot about, wouldn't it be cool if you could take your stuff with you? Nobody actually built that. Nobody actually standardized that. Players could keep their virtual goods forever, trade them when the price is right, and players could earn money by renting their unused computing power to virtual worlds. Of course, all blockchain things are working in that direction. In fact, I was an advisor to a startup that tried to do that with the Sony PlayStation 3 a while ago. All right. So the solution that Reality Chain is looking at is they're reinventing the virtual world model using blockchain technology. We're going to have open avatars, open worlds, open marketplace. And it's going to be built on Ethereum ERC20. Right, so it's pretty much standardized. And of course, these are the pitch slides to go and raise funding, right? So this says it's going to be the WordPress of VR AR. I think that was a comment that I gave to them. And build your world from hundreds of templates. Shop the open marketplace for item add-ons. Share your creation with friends. Connect worlds to build one endless universe. All right, that sounds kind of cool. Business model. Passport fees, users pay annual fee to register with the avatar or name of the network, you know? Like domain registration, right? So I remember I have a domain that when I bought it cost 18 cents first year. now it's like $18. It's like, you know, I don't really need it. I keep it, of course. World fees. Network earns a small transaction fee for all world hosting, sold, auction fees. Network earns a small transaction fee for every item traded at auction. And all fees are paid in cryptocurrency, creating token utility on demand. Go to market. Name your avatar. Users win reality coins to be the first to register their unique avatar name. Name your world building contest. So there's some grand plans in Reality Chain. Advantages of this company. They're experts at free-to-play virtual goods monetization. So some of the people who are founding this company are right out of Zynga, which has been a great, great part of the game world that's really good at free-to-play and monetization. Experts at high-scale virtual world live operations, and experts at 3D visual production quality. So I'll show you some of the people's faces, and then maybe that's probably enough detail for you to think about this. Thor Alexander, he's CEO of Robotic at Zynga, and he was at Electronic Arts and Origin. And Origin was the big server company that was built I moved into Electronic Arts, so he's got that background. Oh, I'm sorry, off Keith. Keith Bullen, head of AR/VR. He's Google, Zynga, Electronic Arts 3DO. So some of these people are still working at these places, I think. Advisors and investors, I'm of course there. I'm listed as cat expert. Right. So I'm also listed as super connector. It's just because I have like 6,000 people on LinkedIn or something like that. And patent expert, I've worked on 35 patent litigation lawsuits, all right, as an expert witness in the networking of games space, and in the virtual reality space, and in the graphics hardware space. And I work for all the major game companies and all the computer companies, Google, Apple, pretty much everyone. Other folks that are there, you can see John Say, great designer. Current CTO for Zynga is involved. CEO of TuneIn is involved. Another AR/VR expert, and CEO of Smashing. All right. So it's a good company. So roadmap, seed funding, token pre-sale, token public sale, team building, you know, it's the usual. So I'll stop there, and I think that's good enough.
Fantastic. Fortnite players everywhere, thank you.